Americans are capable of achieving extraordinary things when they have the freedom and opportunity to do so. This is American Potential. And here's your host, Jeff Crank.
All right, well, happy Valentine's Day to you. I hope you're celebrating Valentine's Day with the special person in your life. For me, this is my 32nd Valentine's Day, being married to my amazing wife, Lisa. It's funny when you say, like, my amazing wife, Lisa, as opposed to what? My amazing wife, Peggy or Donna? No, she's my only wife, but my amazing wife, Lisa. And let me talk just to the men out there for a quick minute. If you haven't bought your Valentine's Day gift yet, you need to get it done. It's a little late, I'm telling you, on Valentine's Day to be doing it. You need to put a little bit more thought into it. But if you haven't done it yet, go do it. Now, don't do what I did, okay? I'm going to tell this story. This is legendary in the Crank household. Many Valentine's Days ago, I was actually running for office, and I was making fundraising calls constantly, trying to raise money. And I looked down, and I'm like, oh, my gosh. I got to get something for Lisa. I better run in. And so I ran into the grocery store, and I was on a fundraising call while I was picking out the card. And I'm going through looking at the cards, and, I'm trying to multitask. I'm talking to a potential donor while I'm doing this. And I grabbed a card, and I was looking through it, and I read it and all that. And I said, okay, great. And so I got it. I got in the truck. I'm still doing fundraising calls, and I sign it. Oh, I love you, Lisa, and go through all of this, put it in the envelope, seal it up, and I take it to my lovely wife, and she gets it, and she opens it up, and she reads it, and she looks at me, and she says, did you actually read this? And I said, what do you mean, did I read? Of course I read it. Why you asked me that? Are you sure you read it? And I said, why? What does it say? And she says, well, it says all these wonderful things. And then it says, Happy Valentine's Day to the man in my life. Don't do what I did. You see, you got to pay attention when you're doing this sort of thing. Anyway, we love to share stories on this podcast about people who are expanding freedom and opportunity in their community, and to help inspire you. And since today's Valentine's Day, we hope to inspire you that even while being an activist, you can still find true love. And today we want to share a great story about two activists from completely different parts of the country, but both working to make our country more free, who met at a training, they fell in love, and eventually got married. Mariana was from Colorado, and Antonio was from Florida. Both got into activism to make a difference in their communities. And part of that was taking different trainings offered by the Grassroots Leadership Academy to teach them how to effectively communicate their point of view, to talk to lawmakers, and to build groups. One of these training sessions was being held in Washington, D.C. They both attended. After a little bit of a rough first morning, and we'll let Antonio tell us that story, these two met and hit it off. They even went on 2 separate dates while they were in D.C. for that meeting. One of those dates didn't go as planned, but it gave them the opportunity to talk a little bit more. And after they each went back to Colorado and to Florida, they continued to talk for a year, and they eventually got married and had ceremonies in both Colorado and Florida. And so today on the show, I want to welcome Mariana and Antonio Reyes and let them tell their story. Mariana and Antonio, thank you for being with us. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you very much for having us on.
Now, Antonio, you've never done anything as dumb as I did you, with the Valentine's Day card?
I have.
Oh, you have? Okay.
I have plenty of times, and it didn't work.
It doesn't. No, it's not the smoothest move, I can tell you. I think it was good that I'd already been married for many years. But anyway, thanks for being with us. So I want to hear, first of all, the first time you met, and you say it didn't go so well the very first outing on this deal, huh?
Well, let me preface this story.
Okay.
So I attended the first two Grassroots Leadership Academy trainings over in Florida.
Uh-huh.
And then the third one, like you said, was in Washington, D.C.
Right. So
the day before the Grassroots Leadership Academy started in D.C., me and my mentor arrived in separate flights.
Mm-hmm.
What I did not know was Darrell Tootle, who's my mentor, and he runs the AFP office in Orlando, Florida.
Right.
He ended up, along with all the other people that were in the class, were able to take a specialized trip with Congressman John Micah to tour the Capitol building.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know about this.
John Mike is a congressman from Florida. Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Right.
So the next day, I wake up and I go downstairs and I meet with the group, and then Darrell tells me this story, and I was livid to it too. So I was yelling and screaming at him all the way through until we got to the AFP building. Got my breakfast. And I was going to sit to Darrell and talk about the issue and everything like that, see if we could get another tour. He was like, you go somewhere else and calm down. I'm like, oh, great. Thank you so much. So I go sit down. I see my meal. I go and pray. I'm like, Lord, thank you for this meal. Amen. When I look back up, here goes Mariana walking in with this beautiful blue dress and a white cami shirt. And I'm like, okay, I'll shut up now. She's gorgeous. And that's how we met.
Well, there you go. Well, so, I mean, do you believe that it was Darrell who put this woman in your life, or was it God? Maybe? I don't know which one.
I think it was God first and then Darrell. Because Darrell is the matchmaker here, because he was the one who put me in the corner to calm down.
Yes. Okay, well, that was good. So then what? Mariana, did you just sit down and you just started talking? How did this happen?
I was trying to figure out a place to sit. You know, I was kind of quiet at first because I was just because I didn't really know anybody there.
Mm-hmm.
Except my two other people from Colorado. I kind of introduced myself, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on during the break was when I was sitting by myself, and then he came up to me and he started to introduce himself. And I asked, like, I'm trying to find someone to go with to go see the monuments because I didn't want to go by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know how Washington, D.C. can be going alone. And then from there, that's when it kind of kicked off.
So he immediately wanted to go on the monument tour all of a sudden, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I bet he did.
Yeah.
I bet he did. So could you tell right away that he was interested in you?
Yeah, I could tell right away.
See?
Because I noticed that me and him were like one of the younger ones in that JLA class. That's what I've noticed. Mm-hmm. So it seemed like it was like that.
So, Antonio, you thought you were so smooth and she wasn't going to know that you were interested in putting the moves on, or what?
Yeah, I was trying to be a little slick and trying to think of the moves, but I didn't think I was doing so well.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so Mariana, what were your first thoughts when you saw Antonio?
At first, I was like, why is he talking to me? You know, and then
that's, by the way, that's what every woman thinks at the first. Yeah, right. First. So you didn't know why he was talking to you
at first, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it became pretty obvious pretty soon.
Yeah, pretty soon it became obvious.
Yeah, right. Well, did you like him back at that point or no?
Yes, I did.
Oh man, okay. So this was kind of a love at first sight.
Yeah, he seemed really friendly. He seemed like I felt comfortable. Yeah.
So then, man, I'm like, this thing just like was love at first sight kind of deal. It seems like.
Yes, it was.
Okay. So did you go on your first date then in DC? What'd you do?
The first thing we went to go see the monuments, and then that night, there was a fire like from the train. So we got stuck there for 2 hours, and that was when we started to get to know each other. That's when we started asking.
So wait a minute,
questions.
you got stuck because of a
Yeah, like it was like an electrical fire,
on the metro, on the subway,
on the
system.
metro,
Right,
on the subway system. And we were just standing there, and that's when we started to like ask questions about getting to know each other.
So maybe a little divine intervention. I mean, not only did Darrell, tell him to go somewhere else, and then God maybe pushed Antonio over to the table. You guys meet, and then there's 2 hours where there's a fire on the subway. That's incredible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. It was an electrical fire that happened over at a couple stations further in. So all the trains were stopped on the DC Metro. It took 2 hours for one train to pop up to go back to Arlington. So during that time, we ended up talking about all our common interests and everything like that. And it was a God intervention because, she was very much like I was when it came to just being able to help people in the communities and what you want to do with your life and stuff like that. So it was very amazing that those 2 hours, it really cemented what I was thinking originally.
Yeah. Okay. So that one went well, even though you had to sit and wait for 2 hours. Yeah, that was a big deal. But I'm sure you didn't mind too much, did you, Antonio?
Not at all.
Yeah, not at all. Look how smooth you are. I got you figured out. Okay, so but then you went on a second date, right? And did that one didn't go as well?
Went to a movie, and the movie was a little pricey. I was surprised how expensive movies are in Washington, D.C.
This was also in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
So it's like in Washington, D.C., and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so expensive. So basically we went to the movies, everything went well and everything like that. But so we pretty much cut it. We had to cut it short because it was raining and everything like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Right.
And the next day we had class. So I'm like, okay, this didn't work out as I planned it. So
yeah. So then what? So that didn't work out as well, but you guys, we
kept talking throughout the rest of the training.
Yeah. And so you were there for like how long? How many days?
We were there. It was Memorial Day weekend, actually. Okay. So we were there for about 4 or 5 days, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So, what I do remember is the day that we were leaving, I ended up going to the Smithsonian because I always wanted to see the Smithsonian, the Air and Space Museum. So because I live here in Florida, we're right next to NASA and everything like that. So planes and rockets interest me. So I went to that. She couldn't join because she went with Darrell and everything like that. But I knew something was. I'm like, she's not with me. Something's missing here. While I was there. So when we got back to the hotel, she was about to go to the airport. And when she got to the airport, I took a bus because my flight was like 4 or 5 hours later. I just went to the airport anyway, caught up with her and talked to her for another hour or so until her flight left.
Man, you're pretty whipped, huh?
Yeah, I was whipped at that point.
Look at you. Yeah, that's great. Well, listen, you did it right. What can I say, right? You did it right. Okay, so you then had to leave. She went back to Colorado. You had to go to Florida. What were you thinking? That's probably a miserable flight back. Oh gosh, I met this lady, and for both of you, it was probably a miserable flight, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And so, what'd you decide? You just kept talking after that, or?
Well, it was interesting. The first conversation that we had back was actually a couple days before I talked to her. The Pulse night shooting happened over in Orlando. So it was national television. There was camera crews from all over the country over in Orlando. Like half of the city was closed because of what happened. So I ended up walking over to downtown, and I'm like, let me talk to Mariana and show her what's going on. So we ended up going on Facebook Messenger, and we started talking video chat.
Mhm.
So I was showing her like, okay, this is Pulse, and this is where everything happened. Look at all these news crews all the way down the street. And then I show her like different places in Orlando where they had all the people that were praying for the victims and everything like that. And,
Right.
and within that conversation, that's when the video chat started. And from that point on, we video chatted almost every day for a year.
For a year.
For
All
a
right.
year.
And then Mariana decided to move to Florida. Right?
Correct.
Why? Because you
Right.
liked the warm weather?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Right. Okay, so you moved to Florida and then you got married. You guys got married, right?
About 18 months later, we got married.
You got married.
Mhm.
Awesome. Awesome. So how long ago was that? When did you get married?
That was the original wedding, because we had two ceremonies.
Oh, that's right.
The one in Colorado was at the Mormon Church in Denver. That was on Veterans Day, November 11th, 2017.
Okay.
And then about 6 months later, because my mom wasn't there, so I was not going to not have a wedding and my mom not be there.
Mhm.
So when we went back to Florida, I went back to my home church, which is Encounter Global Outreach over in Orlando, under the great supervision of Pastor Blake Lorenz. Been under him for almost 20 years, pastor.
Okay.
He did the ceremony over at our church, and that was a fun one, because that one we were able to do what we wanted to do versus what we did in Colorado, which is formal.
Mhm.
We did a sports wedding over there, so it's football and wrestling themed wedding, which was very fun to prepare, and it was nice.
Football and wrestling themed. Okay, you got it. Now I do have to ask about that. What does a
Go ahead.
football and wrestling themed wedding look like?
Well, everybody got dressed in their jerseys and favorite wrestling gear if they had it, the wrestling shirts, WWE wear, and everywhere around the church we had decorations of either a football table or a WWE themed table, AEW themed table. So yeah, that was very fun to prepare.
Okay, now is that so? Mariana, are you a football and wrestling fan?
Yes, I am.
Okay, which one is your favorite, football or wrestling? Where do you have it?
I'm more into football mostly.
Oh, you are. And Antonio, are you more into wrestling or what?
I'm into professional wrestling.
Oh, you are. Okay, all right.
Professional wrestling's my love. My cousin actually works for the WWE, so yes,
Gotcha.
love it.
Okay, so did your family they enjoyed it? Had a good time at the wedding? Yeah?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Actually, Darrell was, of course, invited, and we had the AFP flag over on stage at the wedding. So
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
incredible. That's awesome. That's some commitment there. That's for sure.
And then and on the wedding day, we actually did phone calls before the wedding.
You did.
correct.
Oh,
Yes, we did.
Do you remember what you called on?
We were doing ID work.
Okay.
So basically, we did like probably about an hour's worth of phone calls before the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
I mean, I didn't care about all the superstition stuff about seeing the. I mean, she wasn't in her dress, so
Yes.
like, let's go over there, let's make phone calls, because this is what it's about. I mean, we got married. The main reason we met is because of AFP, and we're going to go ahead and do the work, even though it's our wedding day. So we decided, and we talked to Darrell, and like, let's go ahead and do phone calls, and we did for over an hour.
That's incredible. So you both were active. What made you get active both in Americans for Prosperity? I mean, was it doing phone calls for candidates? Was it issues that got you involved? I'd love to hear. I guess, Antonio, we'll start with you.
Okay, so actually I started first in Connecticut. I'm originally from Hartford, Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
Back in 2009, I met my first mentor. His name was Mike McGarry. He ran for the mayor of the city of Hartford, Connecticut many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I met him at a library, at the Hartford Public Library. They did a a forum with the chairman of the Republican Party of the city of Hartford and the Democrat chair, and they had like a big one-on-one and stuff like that. And I was one of probably the only people in my family who was Republican. I mean, most of my family is Democrat. So in the city of Hartford, reliably blue. But me, I was always different. So I was always the kind of the black sheep of the family in a way. And when it came to my politics, I believed it in a certain way, in economic freedoms and stuff like that. And I always believed that, especially when I was in high school, when we had to study both about the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. When I learned that, I'm like, okay, I'm more Republican, and thus I went. So I met him, and he got me involved right away. So my first assignment, I ran for the Connecticut State House back in 2010. Under the same token, I was helping out Linda McMahon, who was the wife of WWE chairman Vince McMahon.
Hence the wrestling connection. Sure.
Correct.
Okay.
And so she ran for the United States Senate. And she ran twice, in 2010 and 2012.
Right.
In 2010, I was just a volunteer. 2012, I moved from Florida because I had moved to Florida by that time. Went back to Connecticut to run her operations when it came to helping out and talking to the Hispanic community in Hartford. In Hartford, Bridgeport, New Haven, which has a lot of Puerto Ricans that live in those cities. So basically, I took the issues that she had, and I along with my team, talked to the people that in the Hispanic community to talk about what Linda was standing for and everything like that. Even though she lost, it was a unique experience which I needed, so that way I was prepared to do what I was going to do in Florida next. So when I got to Florida, I got involved with the Orange County Republican Executive Committee and the Seminole County Republican Executive Committee because I kept on moving from back and forth between the two. Basically, I lived on the county line. So basically, like 1 year I live in one place and the next year I live in another place. And so I was involved with both counties groups. And that's where I met Darrell. And Darrell told me about Americans for Prosperity, and I'm like, okay, I like this because it's more on the issues versus just a specific candidate.
Right. Okay.
That's how I got involved.
Awesome. Okay. All right. And Mariana, how about you? How'd you get involved?
I got involved when I lived in Denver area. I was just trying to find something to do because I wanted to do something about the issues, and I was at a Young Republicans meeting, and I met someone that was involved with Americans Prosperity, and that's how I got involved there. I liked it because it was more focusing about the issues, and that's what I was looking for at the time. And also, we did a lot of things at the Capitol about like education and about like economic freedom, so that they would have rallies there, and that's when I would go to those, and then we would talk about different issues, but then we would start knocking on doors. I liked doing that because it helped me get out of my shell, because before I used to be like really shy and everything, but this helped me meet different people and also ask questions about what the issues they have on their mind. And then once I moved over to Florida, that's when I really got involved with the Republican Party. And that's when I started helping candidates, but then I would like do candidates, but put it together with it, connect it with the issues.
Right.
And that made a huge difference. And that's when I started to do a lot more door knocking and phone banking. That's when I really learned, since Florida's the battleground state, so it was a good way to learn how to do all of those things. Well,
that's an incredible story. I mean, first of all, thank you for sharing the story with us. And, I wish you both, a long and happy marriage. It sounds like it's well on its way already. So what have you been married? 4.5, 5 years, right? Is that right?
No, They're almost 5.5.
Oh, 5.5. I was selling you a little short there. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not good at math, as you can tell. You said 2017, right? So
2017 we got married. 2020 or 2023, almost 5.5.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, listen, that what a great story. I'm glad that you were persistent, Antonio. It sounds like once Darrell told you to get away from his table, it turned out pretty well for you.
Yes, it did.
That's great. Awesome. Well, hey, thank you both for sharing your story. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you got it. All right. Well, listen, I hope as you've been listening to this, first of all, happy Valentine's Day to you. And I would say if you were listening to this while you were getting the card for your spouse or whatever, you might want to double check it before you give it to her. From, my story from earlier, you got to make sure, you got to learn from me. I make every mistake in the book. So if you learn from me, you're doing good. But if you'd like to get involved, hey, maybe you'll find love at Americans for Prosperity. Who knows? If you'd like to do that, if you want to get connected, and I don't mean like in the way Mariana and Antonio got connected, but maybe. But if you just want to volunteer, see what I mean? Be sure to email me at jeff@AmericanPotential.com. The American Potential Podcast, always looking for stories, great stories like this to help inspire you, keep you informed. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And if you know of a great story of someone that's working on expanding freedom and opportunity and you'd like to share that with us, be sure to go to our website, AmericanPotential.com, and fill out our Share Your Story section. All right. Well, thanks for the great story. Happy Valentine's Day to you. Thank you for listening to American Potential.
Thank you for listening to American Potential. You may listen to more stories from Americans working every day to expand freedom and opportunity in their communities by visiting AmericanPotential.com.